Do you remember what it was like to wake up for school as a kid? You're suddenly jolted awake at 6 in the morning or earlier, either by an ear-piercing alarm or by your parents yelling at you to wake up. I honestly still have PTSD-like reactions anytime I hear a phone alarm go off. And it's really crazy just how traumatizing this is for myself and so many other people in my generation. It's really crazy how, as children, we are forced to wake up at unnatural times to leave our home and parents to be under the supervision of complete strangers for the whole day. Not only is it weird now, but compared to how most humans lived historically, it is just completely bizarre and unnatural. No, the whole thing with the hours to me is so crazy. I mean, who in society decided that everyone should be waking up at the literal crack of dawn to either go to work or to school? Sleep is not only crucial for children's development, but for humans of all ages. Sleep is crucial for proper hormonal regulation. It's crucial for our immune system to even function properly. Your body literally recharges like a battery while you are sleeping, and if you don't get enough sleep, you are going to suffer from lack of energy or motivation for the whole day. Not only that, but sleep is crucial for proper cognitive function. Sleep loss severely affects your brain's ability to process information, and people who suffer from prolonged sleep loss actually exhibit symptoms nearly identical to intoxication from alcohol. It's funny to me how school is supposed to be this place of learning and mental development, yet most kids go to school with their brains not even working properly because they are all chronically sleep deprived. I mean, I have so many horrible personal experiences of waking up to school every day that still traumatize me to this day. You know how when someone tries to talk to you when you first wake up in the morning, it sounds like complete gibberish to you because your brain hasn't even had time to fully turn on yet? Well, I have a memory like that where I remember being woken up by my mom pounding on my chest, yelling at me that I need to wake up for school. And the whole time, I wasn't even processing what she was saying. Everything I heard her say just sounded like complete gibberish to my brain, which hadn't even had time to fully wake up yet. I kept responding with, "What? What?" And she just got even angrier. Like, you literally shook me awake at the crack of dawn. Give me a minute to wake up. And I have just so many other experiences like that, just horrible, horrible mornings. And the worst part is just how adults, even your own parents, they just don't seem to care. They will try to gaslight you and guilt trip you if you don't want to force yourself to wake up every morning. They'll say stuff like, "Oh, you're just being lazy. How are you going to get anywhere in life if you can't wake up early?" And I think a lot of this just comes from one, that our parents and most adults have just been working, they've been so used to this way of life for so many decades that they forgot how it used to feel when you were a child. And it also comes from this hustler mentality which we have in modern society, especially in the US, where you are seen as a weak person if you are not constantly waking up early to go grind for money at your job. I think school is also most people's first foray into drug addiction. In school, a lot of my peers, myself included, developed a severe caffeine addiction to cope with the constant sleep deprivation. I was like 11 or 12 when I started drinking coffee. The days that my dad would drive me to school, we would stop at Dunkin' Donuts and I would get a medium iced latte with whipped cream and caramel every single time. On top of that, I was also taking ADHD medication. It was either Vyvanse or Adderall, I'm not sure exactly, but if you know anything about those drugs, you would know that they are literally amphetamines. I'm not trying to blame my parents here because they didn't know any better, but it's still bad. It's horrible how I would start my mornings with a cup of caffeine and tons of sugar, along with what is basically diet meth. I can only imagine how much long-term damage has been done to my nervous system just for doing that for years in my early developmental stages. And it's really baffling how many kids are on medication as well. Any kid with a slight inability to sit still or pay attention in class is automatically diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, which, by the way, are not real things. There's no such thing as ADD or ADHD. And now I know people are going to be commenting, "Oh, bro, no, I really have ADHD. I couldn't focus in school at all." Yeah, you couldn't focus in school because it's not natural to. Your body was not designed to sit in a desk for 8 hours a day and draw little symbols on a piece of paper. Children want to play, they want to run, they want to explore. This behavior being diagnosed as a disorder is just normal human behavior. If anything, the kids diagnosed with ADHD are the normal ones because they still instinctually try to resist this unnatural state of being which occurs when you are in school. If anyone has a problem, it's the kids who are able to sit still in a desk and be perfectly quiet for hours on end. Those are the ones who are really mentally ill. Like I mentioned before, in school, you are put under supervision of complete strangers. You do not know these people, and neither do your parents. Yet we are told that we can trust these people just because they are approved by the government to educate us. Not only are we told to trust them, but we are also forced as children to obey them. If we do not obey them, then they even have the permission to punish us. Now, sure, some teachers are good people, and there are quite a few teachers I had growing up that I'm still fond of that were very kind, helpful, and friendly people. However, there were also a lot of teachers that didn't even seem to like children. And there were some teachers that liked children, but not in an appropriate way. There are multitudes of cases every single year of teachers possessing child pornography or engaging in sexual acts with students. I mean, it makes sense. If you are a sexual predator who is attracted to children, what better way to get access to children than to work in the education industry? Children will not only trust you, but you are also seen as an authority figure and can easily abuse them and get away with it. I genuinely cannot for the life of me fathom how some of these people get hired in the first place. The school system just seems to not even care who they are hiring. Either that, or they are just doing it intentionally. Back in middle school and high school, there was a substitute teacher we had by the name of, I'm just going to call him Mr. K. Now, just from looking at Mr. K, you could tell right away this is not someone you would want around your children. He had greasy, disgusting, long hair, and he always came to school wearing the same dirty, beat-up trench coat, and he constantly reeked of tobacco smoke. I first had him in middle school, but he also worked at my town's high school. Now, when I would have class with him as I went into high school, he would very blatantly be staring at the female students' private areas. And there are several accusations of him groping both male and female students. Yet, for whatever reason, he was still allowed to work at the school. On the next topic, I honestly don't remember much of what I actually learned in school. What I do remember, and what I think most people remember, is their social lives in school, especially as you get into middle school and high school. And once you get into high school, you start to see this social hierarchy begin to develop, where you have the popular kids on top and then the unpopular at the bottom. And this social hierarchy, it rewards people who conform to what is considered popular. Anyone who has nerdy or otherwise unpopular interests, is introverted, or in some other ways just different from other people, is often treated as either irrelevant at best or as a target to be bullied. And the peer pressure gets really bad once you get into high school, when the urge to conform becomes so strong that a lot of friendships are just completely destroyed. A lot of people switch up on their longtime friends just because they don't see their friends as cool enough and they want to be more popular. And let's not forget the bullying. School is a breeding ground for all sorts of physical and psychological abuse, not just from students, but even from power-tripping teachers. I just think locking hundreds of children into a building creates a really unhealthy and unnatural dynamic. Kids with all different personalities are forced to compete with each other in the same social setting. It's literally exactly the same thing you see in the prison system. When hundreds of humans are forced to share the same small environment, it's going to create a very unhealthy and toxic dynamic where certain more aggressive, more dominant personality types are going to physically dominate over others. And I don't think it's a coincidence either that the architectural designs of most schools looks incredibly similar to how most prisons are designed. The funny thing about school being this place where you are supposed to be getting smarter and learning things is that most people don't even remember anything they learned past like 5th grade. Aside from basic math and learning how to read and write, there isn't really anything I learned from school that was in any way beneficial to me in my everyday life. The only time anyone ever even retains information from school outside of things like I've stated before, like basic math and how to read and write, is if they're actually interested in that subject. For example, I cannot remember anything I learned from chemistry class because I have zero interest in chemistry. Now, I actually did enjoy history class, and I did learn a lot from some of my history classes when I was younger. However, the ironic part of history I was taught in school is that a lot of it wasn't even real history. The history we were taught in school, for the most part, was incredibly biased or was just outright omitting certain information at times. It's fair to say that school is not really an institution for education. Rather, it's more right to call it an institution for indoctrination. You are just taught what the government wants you to believe. And when you look at a routine for the school week, you can see that it's just programming for becoming a 9 to 5 wage slave. You are forced to wake up early in the morning to go to a building where you spend the majority of your day sitting in a desk doing meaningless stuff, and the only time you get any free time during this period is a 30-minute lunch session. It's literally exactly like a job, except you don't even get paid. Notice how schools never actually teach any kind of real financial literacy or any real advice that would benefit you in the real world. Never are we taught about alternative ways to generate income, or how to start a business, or how to manage a household, or even how to regulate our own emotions. All of these things would be far more beneficial to the average child over learning that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell for the 20th time, or any of this other meaningless crap that won't benefit 99% of people in the long run. Now, whenever I openly criticize the school system as being useless, I often receive backlash from a lot of people, particularly from older people in the Gen X and baby boomer generations. They will often say things to me like, oh, well, we need education, or else we'd all be backwards idiots. They act like if you don't go to school, you will basically become mentally disabled. They don't even understand that 99% of humans who ever lived prior to the 20th century did not even attend school, at least not in the modern sense. The modern school system we use today is based off the Prussian school model, which was developed in the 18th century. The Kingdom of Prussia was a highly militaristic state in the eastern part of Germany, and the school system in Prussia was developed intentionally to mold children into becoming obedient so they could become better soldiers. Even from its early inception, the modern school system was never about education, it was about creating conformity. Prior to the popularization of the Prussian school model, the majority of humans alive did not even attend any kind of formal education. Most people lived in very small, close-knit communities, more in tune with a simpler way of life. Most people learned all the information they needed from their parents or from other peers in their community. Most people adopted the same occupation which belonged to their parents and their ancestors for countless generations. It wasn't necessary for most people to understand advanced mathematics, chemistry, or even how to read and write in order to make a living. Now, to a lot of people today, this would sound almost dystopian, a world where you are basically forced into a certain occupation. I understand it. However, I would disagree. I think a lot of this obsession with having a job you really like comes from modern society, which has taught us to center our lives around our careers and to see our careers as our main purpose in life. People in the past did not view work the same way. For most people in the past, your purpose in life didn't come from your job. It came from your community, from the time you spent with your family, and your relationship to the divine. Work was simply seen as a necessary obligation to provide for yourself and your family and to contribute to your community. And it's not to say that education didn't exist. Education was always a necessity for the upper classes and the nobility in every society. And even certain groups like the clergy also were required to participate in education. There was even opportunities for lower class people and peasants to pursue an education at universities if they really wanted to. However, the difference is that education was not a necessity for the average person to make a living. It was simply an option for anyone who wanted to actually pursue some kind of higher education. And that's how I think schools should be. We should have colleges and universities as options for people who are really interested in academic pursuits. But for a lot of people, maybe even most people, I don't think anything outside of being taught basic mathematics, how to read, and how to write is really going to benefit them. Most people are pretty simplistic. Most people just want to have fun with their friends, drink and party on the weekends, and raise a family. Now, obviously, a lot of people are brainwashed today to think they don't want children or significant others, but deep down, most people instinctually crave intimacy and want to have a family. Most people just want a community that gives their lives meaning. Now, I'm not saying that people should be restricted from education. I think everyone should have the opportunity to learn new information. I think access to knowledge is a very good thing. If you really look at it, some of the biggest issues of society today is that most people don't really know what they want to do with their lives. Now, part of that is that most people lack any sense of community or family or religion to give them a sense of purpose. But I also think that another part of it is that people are just given too many choices today. In modern society, we are presented with so many choices for careers and life paths, and there's so much emphasis today on choosing the right career path that a lot of people fall into this sense of guilt or this analysis paralysis out of fear of choosing the wrong life path. In the past, you would be born into a tribe or a village, and you would just take up whatever occupation your parents did, whether that was a farmer, a fisherman, a blacksmith, a stonemason, a hunter, or whatever. And that would just be your occupation you did to make a living. And then you would have your community, your religion, and your family to give you a sense of purpose, and you would just live a naturally fulfilling life. While school does function as a center for indoctrination, I also think it serves a deeper purpose as well for the rulers of our society. Schools are sources of constant trauma and negative energy being generated on a daily basis. They also use our negative energy to control us. One of the ways that people are kept in control is through being in a constant state of stress or fight or flight. School does this perfectly. Being required to wake up early in the morning, deal with constant peer pressure, bullying, and worrying about grades keeps your nervous system in a constant state of hypervigilance. When you are in this state for prolonged periods of time, your brain becomes focused on survival and you lose the ability to think logically and critically. And this is how they keep us easily controlled. So, in conclusion, school is not a place of education. It is a place of indoctrination. It is a place where children are sent to be traumatized, to have their negative energy harvested by the elites, and to be bred into obedient slaves. Now, I'll end the video here. If you enjoyed my video, please leave a like, subscribe, share, and thank you for watching.